The Potters kickstart their championship campaign with a home fixture against what could be a real tough opposition in Coventry. Now, last season they came ninth and only missed out on playoffs by 9 points, but Mark Robins has been able to keep the majority of his team, and it looks like they could be in for a real good season. Now, a lot of people are predicting them to finish very highly, and I feel like they could be quite true. It will be a real tough test on Saturday. So let's dive deep into Stoke's first opposition of the season. Now, with it being the first game of the season, we of course won't know too much about how Coventry are going to do this season, but if last season is anything to go by, then they look like they will be a real difficult side to beat. Now, of course, last season they only missed out on the playoffs by 9 points, but they had an outstanding season. They really did. In a way, you'd probably say that they did deserve playoffs, but the teams above them, of course, just had that extra bit of quality. And come that last 5 games of the season, they didn't manage to get the 3 points. So in a way, last season, that was kind of the story for them. Just digging out wins and turning them draws to wins is something that is huge in the championship. Now, last season, he had quite a few kind of draws, a lot of 1-1s, a few 2-2s, and turning them into the 3 points and that extra 2 points is of course huge. At the start of the season, when of course you draw against the top sides like Leeds, like Southampton, that of course Coventry did, you wouldn't matter too much. It's a hard fought draw and one that is an equal kind of result, but just getting that extra goal and just getting it over line and digging out them wins is of course something that Coventry could have done with last season. But under Mark Robins, they are a real solid side. They really, really are. I feel like that kind of FA Cup campaign that they had, the hunger, the drive, and in a way, they probably deserved to beat United. Nothing wrong against United, but they probably did deserve to make it to the FA Cup final. They really did. There's such a hunger and desire, and that mixed in with the quality that they've got in their squad is really key, and they'll want to keep that going against Stoke, but hopefully that doesn't happen. Now, of course, not focusing too much on pre-season, but with it being the first game of the season, we'll look at the results for Coventry. Now, there were a couple of notable results. Of course, a 0-0 with Getafe, a 3-0 win at home against a very strong Everton side, and they only had a little bit of a narrow loss against Werder Bremen on the weekend. So you know what, they've got a good accountability about them during pre-season. Of course, against Everton, you look at the side that Everton brought out. It's very easy to say, yes, you are building up that match sharpness. Both teams are, in a way, but that's still a really strong Everton side that they put 3 goals past. But this is a Coventry side that, of course, could be very clinical this season, and of course, in this championship season, putting the ball in the back of the net is the only thing you care about. So hopefully on Saturday, they don't do that against Stoke. Now, of course, with it being the summer window, we're going to look into Coventry's signings. Now, what is interesting is they brought in players that, if Stoke brought them in, I'd say are real key signings. The likes of Brandon Thomas-Asante, Jack Rodoni, players that, of course, have played in the Championship and are going to be good assets in the side. So, up first, Brandon Thomas-Asante. Now, one of them that Stoke have been linked with quite a bit, and a player that, if he did come to the club, is someone that Stoke would kind of need, and a player that is like him would be key. Now, 11 goals in 39 appearances last season for West Brom, and he goes into the kind of Coventry striking department with the likes of Haji Wright and Ellis Sims. So, you know what? The battle for places in Coventry sides for leading the line is key. It just shows that battle and that kind of depth in the squad is something that will be key for Coventry this season. And the likes of Brandon Thomas-Asante, a player who does know where the back of the net is. So does Ellis Sims, so does Haji Wright. It will be a real good battle for places, and one of them that could be a real key asset in just containing that momentum for the duration of the championship season. Now, another one that I've mentioned is Jack Rodoni. He joins from relegated Huddersfield on an undisclosed fee. Now, of course, one of the main losses that, of course, Coventry have had is Callum O'Hare. He's gone to Sheffield United, and of course would be a big loss. A player like him, a player that's been at the club for that long, of course, will be a big loss. But with the addition of Jack Rodoni, is a very good player to be added to the side. Of course, keeping that team from last season is something that Mark Robins would have loved to done, and he's managed to do that. Something that is interesting is that Callum O'Hare obviously didn't play as many minutes as I thought. Of course, a very good player. We all know what he brings to the table, and of course, hopefully, he kicks on at Sheffield United, but didn't realise he didn't play loads and loads of games for Coventry last season. And of course, having Jack Rudoni in the side, another real creative player, could be good in terms of link-ups and maybe get them players getting the service that they need. The likes of Brandon Thomas-Asante, Ellis Sims, obviously Haji Wright. So all that link-up and the play that he could do, that creativity in the midfield would be really key for Coventry this season. So in terms of signings, of course, he filled in that goalkeeping position with a goalkeeper that looks to be the number one as well. Signings-wise, for Coventry, they look like they have got it right, and it could be that more come into the side. But for me, keeping that kind of side that Mark Robins had last season, that had during the good FA Cup campaign and a good Championship campaign, is quite a big thing. You don't look for too many adjustments and additions to then tamper with that. But the additions that they have made with the likes of Jack Rudoni and Thomas Asante are real good players that will bring that bit of quality into Coventry's side. But in terms of the Potters, of course, looking at last season, it was a 0-0 draw with Coventry at their place. And then when they came to Stoke, they only just won by 1-0. And it was, of course, Hoover who got dispossessed. He was dribbling into midfield. He kind of got dispossessed. And, of course, Ellis Sims stayed calm, stayed cool, stayed composed, and, of course, slotted it away. And they got the 3 points. But it's one of them where it will be a real interesting battle. We know it will. It'll be a squad that, you know what, I'm not too sure who's injured, who isn't. We'll, of course, preview who will be in Stoke's lineup. But they also will have a lot of quality, both on the pitch and off the bench. So maybe that kind of creative spark or the winner in the game could come off the bench. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and we need to be really cautious with that threat that, of course, Coventry will bring. It'll be interesting to see who kind of tries to take the game, who tries to dominate the game. Of course, neither team took kind of the most dominance last season and took hold of the possession. So it could be quite an end-to-end game. We'll definitely have to see. But if Stoke can keep hold of the ball and stay really positive and get the ball moving and working the play that, of course, we've seen under Schumacher, then we too could be a real threat. So we'll have to see. More previews for this game on Saturday will be coming out very, very soon. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.